Love, trust, and devotion, 3 things I once believed held my marriage together. For years, I had given Olivia my all, convinced we had something unbreakable. That illusion shattered in an instant. It was a Friday evening, the air heavy with the scent of rosemary chicken. I had just set our plates on the dining table when Olivia leaned back in her chair, swirling her wine glass lazily. Her lips curled into a smirk, the kind that sent unease slithering down my spine. "Tonight," she mused, pausing as if savoring the moment, "I'm going to a party at my ex-husband's place." The words landed like a gut punch. My fingers tightened around the fork, heart pounding against my ribs. "What?" She lifted a shoulder, her expression unreadable. "Ethan invited me. Apparently, he's throwing some huge event and, well, I used to be part of his world. It would be rude not to attend." A slow burn of anger unfurled within me. "And you're telling me this now?" Her eyes met mine, calm, unwavering. "I didn't think I needed your permission." My jaw clenched. Olivia had always been strong-willed, independent, but this wasn't just about her making plans. This was about respect, about boundaries that a committed relationship demanded. "You think it's appropriate to go to your ex-husband's party without even discussing it with me?" A slow, deliberate sip of wine. "Why wouldn't it be?" My grip on the table edge tightened. "Because he's your ex, Olivia. Because I'm your husband. Because this doesn't sit right with me." She exhaled dramatically, rolling her eyes. "You're overreacting. It's just a party, not a scandalous affair." Her nonchalance was like fuel to the fire. I had never been the jealous type, but something about this felt calculated. The smirk. The casual dismissal of my feelings. The way she was testing me. I leaned forward, voice low. "If I told you I was going to a party at an ex-girlfriend's place, would you be fine with it?" Her smirk faltered for half a second before she recovered. "Depends on the ex." Bullshit. I watched her, searching for something, anything, that would explain why she was doing this. Olivia and Ethan had been divorced for years. Their relationship had ended on bad terms. What had changed? "Why now?" I pressed. "You barely talk about him. Why the sudden interest in his party?" She set her wine glass down with a soft clink. "He reached out and we're on better terms now. That's all." "That's all," I echoed. She nodded. Lies. Something about the way she refused to elaborate told me there was more to the story. "If you walk out that door tonight, Olivia, don't expect things to be the same when you come back," I warned. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across her face, but just as quickly, she masked it. Her lips twisted into a smirk once more. "Oh? And what exactly will you do?" My pulse thundered. A dozen responses fought to escape my lips, but instead of answering, I stood. My chair scraped against the hardwood floor as I pushed it back. She expected me to argue, to plead, maybe even beg. I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. Instead, I grabbed my car keys. Her brows furrowed. "Where are you going?" I met her gaze, expression unreadable. "You'll see." Then, without another word, I walked out the door. If she thought she could play games with me, she was about to find out just how wrong she was. "You said." I drove without a clear destination, my mind a battlefield of emotions. Olivia's smirk haunted me, her indifference slicing through my patience. Something about the way she said it, so nonchalant, so deliberate, felt like a dagger she wanted me to feel. She wanted a reaction. She got one. But instead of blowing up, instead of begging her to reconsider, I chose a different approach. If she was going to play games, I'd show her I knew how to play them better. I pulled into a dimly lit parking lot and grabbed my phone. The name I searched was one I hadn't thought about in a long time. But if Olivia wanted to test boundaries, I had no reason to hold back. After a few rings, a familiar voice answered. Well, if it isn't the last person I expected to call me," Madison teased, her tone dripping with amusement. I smirked, leaning back in my seat. "Hey Mads. Long time. Too long." A pause. "What's the occasion?" I hesitated before answering. I need a favor. Madison chuckled. This just got interesting. Spill. I told her everything. Olivia's smirk, the party, the way she was testing me. Madison listened intently, humming in understanding. So let me get this straight, she said finally. Your wife wants to waltz back into her ex-husband's life for a party, and you want to make her regret it? I exhaled slowly. Something like that. She was silent for a moment. Then, where are you right now? I glanced around. Couple of blocks from Ethan's house. Perfect. Meet me at La Rue Lounge in 30. I arched a brow. La Rue? Madison's grin was evident even through the phone. Trust me, sweetheart. If Olivia wants to play games, we'll make sure she realizes exactly what she stands to lose. The call ended before I could respond. I stared at my reflection in the rearview mirror, my own smirk forming. Game on. By the time I arrived at La Rue Lounge, the place was alive with energy. The music pulsed through the air, neon lights casting a seductive glow over the crowd. Madison was already waiting at the bar, a knowing smile on her lips. She hadn't changed much. Still effortlessly beautiful, still carrying that intoxicating confidence that once had me wrapped around her finger. You look like a man on a mission, she mused, sipping her drink. I slid onto the barstool beside her. I need Olivia to see what it feels like. Madison tilted her head, intrigued. And how do you propose we do that? I met her gaze. By making her wonder if I've moved on before she even gets the chance. A slow smile spread across Madison's lips. Now, that sounds like fun. She leaned in, the warmth of her body so close I could feel it. Shall we give your wife a reason to rethink her choices? I downed my drink and smirked. Let's make her regret ever walking out that door. An hour later, we arrived at Ethan's party. The mansion was everything I expected. Luxurious, grand, filled with people who thrived on excess. I spotted Olivia almost immediately. She stood on the balcony, champagne flute in hand, Ethan beside her. I exhaled slowly, steadying my resolve. Madison looped her arm through mine, voice soft but firm. Ready? I nodded. And then we walked inside. The moment Madison and I stepped into Ethan's lavish mansion, the energy in the room shifted. Conversations faltered, gazes lingered, curiosity sparked. I wasn't just another nameless guest. I was Olivia's husband, the man she'd so casually disregarded before strutting into her ex's world. And now? I wasn't alone. Madison's presence was a weapon in itself. Dressed in a sleek black dress that hugged every curve, she exuded an effortless magnetism. Her fingers rested lightly on my forearm, her body angled toward me as if we shared a secret the world wasn't privy to. Olivia noticed. I saw the exact moment recognition dawned in her eyes. Her fingers tightened around the stem of her champagne flute, lips parting slightly in something that wasn't quite shock, but wasn't indifference either. Good. I leaned in, just enough to let Madison's perfume mix with my own scent. Let's make this interesting. She smirked, voice a seductive purr. Oh, sweetheart, I thought we already were. We moved through the party, stopping to engage with various guests. I wasn't just here to make a statement, I wanted Olivia to feel it. I wanted her to experience the unease, the uncertainty, the doubt she had so easily dismissed when she walked out of our home. Ethan approached first. Tall, confident, dressed in a suit that screamed old money. He extended a hand, the practiced charm of a man used to getting what he wanted. I didn't expect to see you here, he said smoothly. I shook his hand, firm but not aggressive. Thought I'd check out the event. His gaze flickered to Madison, curiosity piqued. And you are? She offered a sultry smile. Madison. No last name. No elaboration. Just that single word laced with intrigue. Ethan nodded, eyes calculating. Pleasure. His gaze darted back to Olivia, who stood a step behind him, silent. I didn't miss the way her jaw tensed, the way her fingers drummed against her glass. What a coincidence, she finally spoke, her tone light but forced. I didn't know you'd be coming. I tilted my head, mirroring her earlier smirk. I didn't think I needed your permission. Her expression faltered, just for a second. Madison chuckled, leaning into me slightly. He did mention his wife was attending a party tonight. Funny how that worked out. Ethan's lips twitched in amusement, but Olivia wasn't amused. She wasn't in control of the situation anymore. I could see the thoughts racing through her mind. Who was Madison? How long had we been in contact? Had I planned this just to get back at her? Yes. Yes, I had. Ethan, always the host, gestured toward the bar. Let's grab a drink. No need for awkward tension, right? I followed without hesitation, Madison still at my side. Olivia had no choice but to follow, her curiosity outweighing whatever pride she had left. Drinks were poured, conversations continued, but the true battle was silent. Madison's laugh rang out at all the right moments. My fingers lingered on her waist, just long enough to be noticed. Olivia's smiles were tighter, her gaze flickering between us as if trying to piece together a puzzle she didn't even know existed. Finally, she leaned in, voice just loud enough for me to hear. Are you trying to prove a point? I met her gaze, unflinching. Am I? She exhaled sharply, frustration simmering beneath the surface. Good. Let her feel it. Let her wonder. Because tonight, I wasn't the one being played. Olivia's composure had cracked, but she wasn't one to crumble easily. She straightened her spine, plastered on a tight smile, and lifted her champagne flute to her lips. Her eyes darted between me and Madison, suspicion clouding the usual confidence she carried like armor. Good. She had walked into this party believing she had all the power, that she could test the waters with her ex-husband while I sat at home, clueless and obedient. Instead, she found me here, with a woman who commanded attention and knew exactly how to play the game. For the first time that night, Olivia was uncertain. Ethan, sensing the shift in energy, placed a hand on Olivia's lower back, a subtle, possessive touch meant to establish dominance. He wasn't just playing host anymore, he was marking his territory. Madison, ever perceptive, leaned into me and let her fingers drift across my chest. You never told me Olivia's ex-husband was so territorial. I smirked. You know how some men are. Can't stand the thought of someone else stepping in. Ethan chuckled, but it was forced. Nothing wrong with looking out for old friends. Madison tilted her head, lips curving. Old friends? Is that what you two are? Olivia's jaw tightened. Of course. Ethan and I have history, but that doesn't mean. She stopped herself, realizing she was about to defend something that didn't need defending, unless, of course, it did. I could see the war waging inside her. She wanted to believe that she had control over the situation, but her eyes betrayed her. She was watching me. Watching Madison. Watching the way I hadn't once reacted with jealousy or anger. I had done the one thing she hadn't expected. I moved on first, or at least, I made her believe I had. Ethan, still playing the perfect host, lifted his drink. To old friends and new company. We all raised our glasses, but as Olivia sipped, I caught the flicker of uncertainty in her gaze. She wasn't enjoying this. She was realizing the consequences of her actions. I leaned in slightly, just enough for my voice to be heard over the music. Didn't expect this, did you? Olivia swallowed hard. I don't know what you mean. I tilted my glass, watching the liquid swirl. You walked out tonight expecting to test boundaries. You wanted to see how far you could push before I pushed back. She stiffened. I continued, voice steady, controlled. But here's the thing, Olivia. I don't chase. Her breath hitched, just slightly, but enough for me to notice. For years, I had given her everything, love, devotion, loyalty. I had let her hold all the cards. But tonight, the rules had changed. She wasn't the one in control anymore. And she knew it. Ethan excused himself to greet another guest, leaving Olivia and me alone for the first time since I'd arrived. Madison had moved to the bar, giving us space, but not before offering me a wink that Olivia definitely caught. She set her glass down a little too forcefully. Who is she? I arched a brow. Madison. Yes, Madison. I shrugged. An old friend. Her lips pressed into a thin line. You never mentioned her before. I met her gaze, unwavering. And you never mentioned Ethan's party. Her nostrils flared slightly, but she caught herself. She was unraveling. I let the silence stretch between us, letting her sit with her own choices. Finally, she exhaled sharply. Are you trying to make me jealous? I took a slow sip of my drink, watching her over the rim of the glass. Should I be? She blinked. For the first time all night, she didn't have an answer. The smirk she had worn so confidently at dinner was gone. In its place, uncertainty. Regret. Good. I leaned in just enough for my words to be for her ears alone. You thought you could push me aside, make me doubt my place in your life, I murmured. But tonight, Olivia, you're the one wondering. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. I smiled. Then, without another word, I turned and walked toward Madison. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I had already won.